So in the earlier class, we have seen the basics of grid computing. So I have introduced you that what exactly we mean by the grid computing, what is the need of grid computing, and how exactly it has evolved over the period of time. So as discussed in the last class, the grid computing is especially designed to handle large scale science and engineering applications, and this basically is done by involving multiple people, by involving heterogeneous computing resources, information systems, and instruments, right? And what makes grid special is that in this case all the resources or all the components are geographically and organizationally dispersed, right? So they all these things are placed at different places. So this is what is very special about grid computing. So as discussed in the last class, that these are basically designed to support large scale science and engineering application, right? So we have discussed the brief history and we have seen quite a few examples of grid computing. So I guess the basics of grid computing is pretty much clear to all of you. Thereafter, we have seen the comparison of grid computing with the other computing paradigm, for example, serial computing, parallel computing, and how exactly grid computing is different from them. Thereafter, we have also seen that how grid computing differs from distributed computing, right? And then we have seen how grid has been evolved from the web. So there are many things which were already there in the World Wide Web. So the many things have been derived from the web services. So for example, how the thing can be uniquely accessed, that thing or that phenomena or that process, that scheme has been taken from the web services. Thereafter, we have discussed what we have got from World Wide Web. So we have got number of things, for example, URLs, and then the use of XMLs and few protocols like SOAP and all. So all these things we have got from World Wide Web. Apart from that, one special thing which we have got from World Wide Web is portals. So we will see how portal works. Then if we talk about the current status of the grid, then these are the few grid projects which are running across the globe. So the first one is the Foster, and then apart from that, one open source global toolkit is also very much active, and it has provided as a standard for major protocols and services. Just hold on. Yeah. So one global toolkit has also been developed. Apart from that, number of major companies, for example, IBM, Microsoft, Sun, Compaq, these have emerged as some of the leading companies which have been working in the field of grid computing. So they all are seeing the opportunities in the field of e-sciences and e-businesses. So yet a lot of things has to be done in the case of e-businesses. As of now, a lot of things have been done, have been developed in case of e-sciences, but now in order to take or in order to create it a business module or the business, a lot of things are yet to be done or formalized. Now we have to see that how that grid computing works. So what are the enabling technologies or what actually is being done in the background? So the first thing which enables that grid computing or that facilitate grid computing is open service architecture, open grid services architecture. We call it as a OGSA. So this particular architecture was developed by Global Grid Forum, and it defines a common standard and open architecture for grid-based applications. And with the help of OGSA, we are going to get the things like virtual organization management services. With this, we are also going to see we are also going to get the resource discovery and management services. Then how the jobs are going to be managed, how the security are going to be provided, or you can say how the security services are going to be provided or going to be managed. Apart from that, the data which is going to be there, how the data is going to be managed. So all those things are going to be provided with this OGSA. Okay, so it has basically covered all the important aspects. For example, the virtual organization management, right? If these services are there, if the resources are there, then how one can find those resources, how one can manage those resources, right? And if in case someone has given that this thing has to be obtained from that particular source, so how that particular job is going to be executed, right? So job management services are also going to be provided, and of course the security has to be there, so it also covers the security aspect. And apart from that, how that data is going to be managed. So all the basic, or you can say the important things, are going to be covered with the help of this particular architecture, which is named as a OGSA. And one important thing regarding this OGSA is that it is built on top of, and it extends the web services architecture protocols and interfaces. So we are very much familiar with the web service architecture, right? So in our day-to-day uses, we do use number of websites, right? So we are very familiar that how those websites are going to be accessed, or how those websites are being accessed. So we make the use of number of protocols, right? So all those protocols facilitates us to make the use of these web services. So this architecture is basically built on the top of these services only. Okay, and some of the things are being extended. Okay, so we'll see how the things which are being extended and the things which have been taken as it is from the web services. Thereafter, there is one more thing called as Web Services Resource Framework. We call it as a WSRF. And this is a specification which has been developed by OASIS, which stands for Organization for the Advancement of Structured Information Standards. And WSRF basically specifies how to make web services stateful. So in a typically World Wide Web, if you talk about the web services, then all those web services are stateless. But in case of grid computing, we will be in the need of having stateful web services. So we have to see how we can make these web services stateful. So your WSRF will basically provide all the necessary infrastructure, all the necessary things which will make these services stateful. Okay. Now it has come as a result of joint effort done by grid and web services community. So as specified earlier, that it is going to provide the stateful services that OGSA needs, which we have discussed in the last slide, right? So OGSA will be providing us all the basic things which we require to create any grid infrastructure, right? So if we just try to connect both of them, then we can say that OGSA is the architecture, while WSRF is the infrastructure on which that architecture is built on. So basically, we must have this one first, and if we have this, then this can be done. Okay, so this is the basic thing. So first, we need to have this one, and the moment we have this one, only then we can think about this one. Okay. So let us try to understand what exactly we mean by stateless and stateful web services, so that the clear idea can be obtained. So in this diagram, we can see again a client is trying to access some web services. So in the first request, which is add 5 at the server side, then the service response was 5. Okay, and in the second request, again the client has made a request to add 6, then the service response was 6. Then in the third request, add 7, then again the service response was 7. So this is the example of stateless services. So these particular states are not being saved at the server side. Okay, and from the server side only the web services are being provided. So each and every time when the add request is being placed at the server, this is being processed directly without storing its state at the server. Okay, so this is why we are calling it as a stateless service. So now let us see how stateful service will look like. So this is the example of stateful service, where the moment client is making a request, that request is being saved. Okay, so let's say initially if the state is 0, then after making the request of adding 5, then that add 5 will be stored at the server side, right? And the moment second time client made a request, or client make a request to add 6, so that 6 will be added to the earlier state, earlier saved state. So earlier it was 5, then 5 plus 6, it is going to be 11. So what I'm trying to say is, each and every time when the client is making any request, then that request will be going to saved in the server side. Okay, so in this particular architecture, the things are going to be saved. Okay, so that is why we are calling it as a stateful web service invocation, because the states are going to be saved at the server side. So I hope the things are clear. What is the difference between stateless and stateful web services? Now let us see the relationship between the OGSA, WSRF, and web services. So as of now, these three are very important, right? So World Wide Web has provided us the facilities of web services, right? So each and everything or all the resources we can get with the help of these web services, right? And now, since we know that in order to create a grid infrastructure, we have to have a stateful web services. So therefore, we have to extend these services provided by the web services, right? So stateful web services extend the services of web services. Thus, they make sure that the web services now which are being provided has to be stateful in nature. Okay, and web service resource framework uh, ensures that it specifies all these stateful web services. Okay, while in case of this implementation, it requires that it has to be stateful. Okay, so first the services which was provided by World Wide Web will be there. Okay, then on the top of it, it is going to work, means a framework will be developed which will ensure the stateful, which will ensure the availability of stateful services. And on the top of that, your OGSA will come into picture, because for its implementation we have to have the stateful web services, and how these things are going to provide it with the help of this one. Okay, so this is the relationship between OGSA, WSRF, and web services. Any doubt, students?
No, sir.
Okay. So we do have quite extended bodies, and for example, Global Grid Forum, acronym for GGF, and this is also one of the standard body, and they do organize some meetings, and in a year they basically organize 3 meetings on quarterly basis, and it has around 14 nations which they have in the group. So they do meet thrice a year, and apart from that, we have one more organization called as World Wide Web Consortium. So as we know that number of web services are the facilities of web services are being incorporated or are being extended. So that is why this particular organization is also considered as a important contributor. Okay. Apart from that, OASIS stands for Organization for the Advancement of Structured Information Standards. So basically, these are the standard bodies which look after the development of grid computing. Okay, so this is concerned with more often concerned with the development of web services. This is more often concerned with the development of your OGSA architecture, and this is basically concerned to develop the toolkits which is going to provide the end services to the all the grid computing applications. Then these are the standards which are there in the web services, and we use this standard in grid computing as well. So these, I guess, we have discussed in the last class as well. So we will be in the need of XML, SOAP protocol, and the web services which have been developed by web services, right? And these are going to be specified, means all these services are going to be specified with your web service description language. So the moment one is in the need of any service, then all those services are going to be defined with the help of web service description language. Okay, so let's say we have got number of resources at some places, and one is in the need of accessing those resources. So first one has to specify what resources are available, what input will be required, what output will be required. Okay, and in what way, in what capacity that particular function or resources can be accessed. So all those specification has to be there. So all those specification or the way of access, all those things are going to be specified by this particular thing, which is named as web service description language. Okay, so all these things are already being defined by the World Wide Consortium. Okay, now the standards in the grid computing world. Okay, so we already discussed one of the standard named as Open Grid Service Architecture, and apart from that, GGF4, the meetings which were discussed. Okay, so it was announced in way back 2002. And the important thing regarding OGSA is that they have not made the implementation detail public. Okay, or in short, you can say that they have not given the details of implementation. So this is a very specific thing. Then, in a major development, a project has been formed named as Globus project, and it has provided an open source software toolkit which has been dedicatedly developed by the for grid computing, and it has come as an as a result of an IWay experiment, which was nothing but an experiment created for creating the software infrastructure designed for handling high performance computing. So for when that project was going on, so people thought that why we should not go for a computing paradigm which will provide a solution to all the potential applications. So it has come as the result of that experiment only. So it's all work started in 1996, and as of now 4 versions have been developed till time. Okay, so as mentioned that Globus version 4, we call it as a GT4 sometimes. Okay, so it is a toolkit which provides you services and packages for creating the basic grid computing infrastructure. Okay, so the high level tools added to this infrastructure. So we'll come to that, what exactly we mean by high level tool or high level tool. So basically the higher level tool will provide you this facility where you can come, where you can aggregate the content, where you can just fetch the contents. Okay, or you can also visualize some of the things. So we'll discuss that thing in detail in the coming lectures. So the latest version is the version 4, and it do include the legacy code or the codes which were supported by the earlier version. So all those codes are also there. Some of the code also there, and some of the codes have been removed which were compromising with the efficiency of the system. So at present, you can say the GT4 is in use. So this is how the implementation of your global toolkit has been done. So till this point, we will discuss the thing, right? Just yeah. So as we know that your stateful web services extend the facility of web services, right? And Your web service resource framework specifies how these stateful web services can be developed, and your OGSA needs these stateful web services for the implementation. Now your Globus Toolkit 4 GT4 implements high-level services adequate for grid applications. And how they do it? They do create these applications, but the specific thing regarding those applications is that they must meet the requirement of Open Grid Service architecture, right? So all those applications are going to be developed in such a way that all those applications are fulfilling the basic things of OGSA. And what are the basic things of OGSA? That they must provide job management, they must provide data management, they must take care how the virtual organizations are taken care of, right? So all those basic things are going to be taken care with the OGSA, and all those things has to be there in all the grid applications. Okay, and this Globus toolkit is a toolkit which implements all those grid applications. Okay, apart from that, as mentioned, that this will be required because this will specify your stateful web services. Okay, so the moment we talk about this one, that means already this has been taken care. And apart from that, we do have other software packages which do use WSRF framework, where these stateful web services are required, not only the Globus toolkit. Some other resources, some other software packages are also there, for example, WSRF.net. So some other toolkits are also there which makes the use of WSRF. Okay. So this is how your Globus toolkit functions. Okay, or you can say they create applications. So in order to create the application, they must ensure that all the applications are meeting the requirement of OGS. Am I clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if we talk about the layered functionality or the layered hierarchy of all these four, for example, OGSA, GT4, WSRF, and web services. So at the bottom, we'll be having web services as mentioned, right? And in order to make them in a stateful service, we will be providing or will be placing web service resource framework on the top of this one. Okay, so this will help us out to provide stateful web services. And the moment we have got stateful web services, then we can talk about OGSA. Okay. So Open Grid Service Architecture will provide this many number of functionality, right? And the moment we have got this many functionalities, then we can talk about the grid applications, high level grid services or the applications. And these applications will be basically developed by your GT4. Okay. So this is the layered hierarchy of this diagram. Now, we talk about the grid technologies, then it is nothing but the resource sharing mechanism that basically address the security and policy concerns, right? And of course, they have to be flexible enough to deal with the many resource types and sharing modalities. Apart from that, scale to large number of resources, many participants, many program components. Apart from that, it must be able to operate efficiently when dealing with large amount of data and computation. So what we are trying to say, the moment we are talking about grid technologies, then these are the following functionalities which has to be there. That means we are talking about a resource sharing mechanism which is going to enable all these things, right? So we already talked that the moment we talk about grid technologies, that means we are talking about a mechanism which is going to provide the security to all the communication part, right? Apart from that, we are talking about a technology which is going to manage number of resource type, right? So the resources may be of different varieties, or you can say, or of different types, right? So how those resources are going to be accessed or going to be shared, those modalities or those rules, those protocols has to be mentioned. and those protocols and rules are will be mentioned in this mechanism or in this technology. Apart from that, of course, it has to be big enough, means if a requirement comes, then it must be able to scale itself, right? So let's say a large experiment has come into picture and it is in the need of, let's say, 1 million computing cores. So if grid infrastructure is there, and let's say that grid infrastructure is currently having only uh, 0.5 millions, then it must be able to scale itself to meet the requirement of that experiment. And of course, having said that, those resources or those number of computing cores are already there in the pool. Thus, it has to make sure how to connect the required number of computing resources in that pool. Okay, so as the movement come or as the requirement come, many participants must be able to come, they must be able to scale their resources so that the uh, requirement can be facilitated or can be met. Okay, and of course they must be operate efficiently. So your grid technology will provide a mechanism which will provide all those things in an efficient way. Okay, so all these things will be there implicitly the moment we talk about any grid technology. Okay, now if we talk about the aspect of the problem, then in case of grid technology, we must have to think about the interoperability, because there is strong need of interoperability, because the different groups are going to work, right? So how the resources are going to be shared, that we have to see, how the diverse components are going to be handled, how the different policies, because since the number of organizations are there, right? So each and every organizations will be having their own policies. So we have to see how those different policies are going to be taken care, right? So how the different mechanisms are going to be handled. So there is a strong need for interoperability. Apart from that, there is a need for shared infrastructure services, right? So that repeated development can be avoided, or you can say the installation can be avoided. Okay, so there are several examples for that as well. Apart from that, a common need for protocols and services. So if let's say certain things have been developed to meet the requirement of some applications, so those things should also work for the other applications as well. Okay, so some standard set of protocols and services has to be there or has to be developed. So these are the some of the aspect of the problem. So all the problems will be having these things in common. So grid infrastructure or grid technology has to address these aspects in general. Then all the grid technologies or the focus which one should have in order to create any grid technology can be modeled in the hourglass model. So what this model says, that all the local services or local operating system will be there or heavily will be deployed at the bottom. Okay, all the uh, underlying resources or the infrastructure which is necessary to create any grid technology will be deployed at the bottom level. Okay, and all the enabling things or the core services will be there in the middle, and they will be or they should be minimal in number as compared to the underlying infrastructure. Okay, and on the top of these infrastructure and core services, one must be able to create diverse global services, or one must be able to create number of applications. Okay, so what it is trying to say, that all the underlying hardware will be there. Okay, fine, no matter how much hardware, how much resources is there. Okay, so all those things must has to be taken care by these core services. and these core services should be minimal or should be minimal in nature. And the moment one is trying to create the application, one is trying to create some packages, or one is trying to create some tools and all, those tools or applications is going to integrate with these core services only. Okay, they are not going to integrate directly with this infrastructure. Fine. So this thing has to be minimal in nature. So this is what your hourglass model says. So basically in hourglass model, the focus is on the architectural issue, which is going to be there. So the purpose set of core services are services as basic infrastructure, and they used to construct high level domain and specific solutions, right? So the focus is going to be over there, where some high level application or some domain specific applications or solutions can be developed. Okay, so the focus is going to be shifted in this part. Apart from that, the design principles such as keep participation cost low, enable local control, support for adoption, and IP hourglass model. So basically it is analogous to your IP hourglass model we'll see in the coming slide, and it can also facilitate the local control, and it can keep the participation cost low because the participation or the interaction is being done with the core services only. Okay, these applications doesn't need to handle, or they doesn't need to care regarding all these things. Okay, so these were the design principle, or these are the design principle which one has to take care the moment they try to design any grid technology. Then this is the grid layered grid architecture, and which is very much analogous, or which is very much similar to your internet architecture. So in the internet architecture, we have seen that at the bottom we do have the link layer, right? And then we have some internet protocols and transport protocols, and on the top of these we have applications. So similarly, in grid technology, at the bottom we have fabric layer, and it is basically responsible to control the things which are there locally. So it provides the access and the control over all those locally resources. Okay, whatever the resources are there, whatever the infrastructure are there, so this layer is responsible to handle all those resources, and it also facilitates the access to those resources, right? Then we have connectivity layer. So this layer is responsible to facilitate the communication, and it also provides the security. Okay, so it basically enables the communication from these resources. Okay, apart from that, we have got resource layer, and this resource layer enables the sharing single resources. So if in case we have got a resource and multiple parties are there, and all those parties are trying to access that single resource, then how that single resource is going to be extended to the multiple parties. So all those sort of negotiations and the controlling use is being, or is going to be defined by this particular layer called as resource layer. Okay, and then on the top of that we have got collective. So as the name itself suggests, that it is going to coordinate multiple resources, right? So in this case, ubiquitous infrastructure services can be there, or some a specific distributed services can be there. Okay, so some form of aggregation will be performed at this layer. So again, it is up to the application in what form, in what sense the aggregation is required. Okay, so application will be in the need of all these three. Fine. So this is how your layered grid architecture looks like, which is analogous to your IP architecture. Okay. So this is what I'm going to discuss in today's class. So if you guys have any doubt, then you can ask. Any doubt, students? Students?
No, sir.
Okay. So I will end today's class here only. Thank you.